Watch a person sitting alone in traffic, or waiting for a delayed flight, or replaying a painful conversation in the dark at 3 a.m. Look closely at the tension in their jaw. Listen to the silent, frantic dialogue looping in their head. They are in a courtroom that does not exist. They are cross-examining the past. They are putting reality on trial. They are presenting evidence to an invisible judge, arguing desperately that this traffic jam, this betrayal, this exact circumstance is unfair, incorrect, and completely unacceptable. And they are losing the case. Every single time. We spend a terrifying amount of our finite energy engaged in what we might call the phantom negotiation. We subconsciously believe that if we are angry enough, if we suffer enough, if we clench our fists tight enough, reality will somehow recognize its mistake and apologize. We use our own misery as a currency, trying to buy back a past that has already been spent, or bribe a present that is already set in stone. Think about the sheer exhaustion of waking up and immediately arguing with the facts of your own life. The relentless friction of wishing things were different. This friction is not just uncomfortable. It is destroying your mind. It is grinding down your psychological reserves, leaving you brittle, reactive, and easily broken by the slightest shift in the wind. This is not a conversation about finding the silver lining. It is not about pretending that tragedy, loss, or daily frustrations are pleasant. It is about a fundamental, brutal shift in how you process the unyielding weight of existence. It is about putting an end to the phantom negotiation once and for all. Modern psychology has a term for this exhausting inner conflict: cognitive dissonance. It occurs when our brain's predictive coding, what we expect to happen, clashes violently with the incoming data of what is actually happening. When reality fails to match our internal blueprint, the brain fires an error signal. We experience this signal as anxiety, frustration, or rage. But instead of updating our blueprint to match reality, the ego does something highly irrational. It tries to force reality to match the blueprint. We reject the data. We say this can't be happening, but it is. We say they shouldn't have done that, but they did. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoics identified this exact psychological error. They recognized that human suffering does not stem from the event itself, but from our frantic, futile resistance to the event. To counter this, they developed a concept that is often misunderstood as passive resignation, but is in fact the ultimate psychological weapon: Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. Amor Fati is not about liking the bitter medicine. It is the profound recognition that the medicine is already in your mouth, and spitting it out will only prolong the sickness. It is the shift from "why is this happening to me" to "this is happening." What is the next necessary movement? When you adopt this stance, you are not surrendering to defeat. You are surrendering your delusions. You are stepping out of the phantom courtroom and walking back into the real world. You stop demanding that the universe conform to your preferences, and you begin the quiet, gritty work of navigating what is actually in front of you. Listen to the vocabulary of your own frustration. The most dangerous word in the human language is the word should. I should have gotten that promotion. It shouldn't be raining today. They should have understood my intentions. Every time you use the word should, you are committing an act of deep psychological arrogance. You are assuming that your limited, biased, emotionally driven blueprint of how the world operates is superior to the infinite complexity of reality. Why do we do this? Because should protects the ego. If the world should be a certain way and it isn't, then we are the innocent victims of a flawed universe, where right and reality is wrong. It feels validating. It feels like a moral victory. But this moral victory is completely hollow. The universe does not deal in should. It deals entirely in is. Fire burns, water flows. People act out of their own unresolved traumas. Economies shift, accidents happen. To cling to should is to chain yourself to a ghost. When you drop the word from your vocabulary, you experience an immediate, terrifying rush of cold air. You're no longer protected by the illusion of fairness, but you are also no longer paralyzed by it. You are finally dealing with the raw materials of existence. The deepest resistance we face is often directed at our own past. We are haunted by the myth of the wrong timeline. We look back at a failed relationship, a financial mistake, or a missed opportunity, and we believe that we accidentally stepped off the correct path. We believe that there is a parallel universe where we made the right choice, and we are currently living in the ruined, inferior version of our life. This is a psychological trap. It forces you to live as an exile in your own present moment. Amor Fati demands a ruthless acceptance. There is no other timeline. This is the only one. Every mistake you made, every betrayal you suffered, every stroke of bad luck, it all had to happen exactly as it did, because the infinite variables of the universe dictated that it would. To wish that a single grain of sand in your past was different is to wish for the destruction of the entire fabric of your present self. You cannot separate the wisdom you possess today from the foolishness that forged it. You cannot extract your current strength from the humiliation that demanded it. When you stop fighting the ghost of who you could have been, you reclaim the energy necessary to govern who you actually are. So how do we process the genuinely terrible things? The injustices, the heartbreaks, the events that simply cannot be framed as good. We often treat unwanted events like foreign bodies, like a splinter in the mind that we must frantically dig out. We complain. We seek validation from others. We want someone to tell us that we have a right to be outraged. But the Stoic mind operates differently. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that a blazing fire makes a flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Think of your mind not as a delicate museum that must be protected from the dirt of the world, but as a furnace. When a weak fire is fed trash or damp wood, it chokes smokes and dies. But a roaring established furnace does not care what you throw into it. It consumes the garbage, the dead wood, the toxic waste, and it turns it all into one thing: fuel. It turns it into more heat, more fire. The obstacle is not blocking the path. The obstacle is the material you use to pave the path. But be warned, adopting this mindset will not win you social points. Modern society bonds over shared grievance. We build friendships based on mutual complaining. When you stop fighting the inevitable, when you stop performing your outrage for an audience, people will notice. They will not view you as wise. They will often view you as cold. They will think you don't care. You will lose the cheap sympathy of the crowd. You will no longer be invited to the communal festivals of self-pity. This philosophical shift does not grant you dominance over others. It grants you independence from them. It is a lonely, quiet strength. It is the realization that you no longer need the world's permission to be steady. Imagine standing in an open field as a massive, dark storm rolls in. The instinct is to look up at the sky and scream at the clouds, to demand that the rain stop, to argue that you didn't bring an umbrella, that you have somewhere to be, that this weather is completely unfair to your plans. You can spend your entire life screaming at the sky. You can write essays about the injustice of the rain. You can gather a group of people in the field to scream alongside you. But the rain is still going to fall. The Stoic simply looks at the sky, acknowledges the dark clouds, and accepts that they are about to get wet. They button their coat. They lower their head. They begin to walk. There is no victory here. There is no triumph over the storm. There is only the quiet removal of the delusion that the storm cares about you at all. When the friction of your resistance finally stops, what is left in the silence? When you strip away your demands, your expectations, and your endless arguments with reality, who are you entirely alone in the rain?